Good afternoon, and welcome to our version of Facebook Live, where we talk about things spiritual and try to apply the goings on in the world to our spiritual lives and how we are in the world. I'm wearing a collar today in tribute to the notorious RBG who passed this week. Um, I consider it an amazing loss for all of us. This woman was more than an icon. She was a world changer in a very good way. And I mourn her passing, and I just wanted to pay a small tribute to her today. Kat just mentioned that I looked very RBG with the collar on this morning and the bigger glasses, and she suggested I pull my hair back, and I said, not only do I not have the mind of RBG, I don't have the hairline. So we'll just stick with the bangs for now. And take a moment and truly honor this remarkable woman who dedicated her life to making our lives better and more powerful and more equal. So, hello, Laura. Glad you're here. Good morning, Jennifer. Happy Sunday, Dana. Glad that you are here. Glad that I am here. What else is there to say? Except that it's Sunday and we're together, and that's always a good thing. I've much to share with you today when we get to that point in our gathering. But right now, I just want to ask, what's on your mind? What's in your heart? What is exciting you, troubling you? What's going on right now in that wonderful mind of yours? And where is that leading you? Talk to me. Thank you, Donna. You're looking good yourself. I'm sure of that. I can't see you, you know that. But you always look good. So I'm going to just assume that you're continuing with your regular. Good morning, Heidi. Boy, people are just all of a sudden, here we go. We're all showing up. It's Sunday morning, September 20th, 2020. That's a lot of twos. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 1 and 5 and 6. It's the sixth day. Yes, grieving RBG. Absolutely. Me too. Me too. That's what's with the collar this morning and the bigger glasses. And I just want to honor a lady that spent her whole life making a difference. Wow. I was tempted to say this morning that I would like to be her when I grow up, but I don't have enough time to grow up between now and her age, so I'm just going to have to do the best I can with what I've got. Aren't we all? We'll miss her. Yes, the film RBG is fabulous and amazing and tells you a lot about her life. CNN has also done a piece called RBG that is, I believe, 3 hours long. We have watched most of it, but it got late, so I taped the rest. But it's good. It's good as well. Both of those give you a real insight into the woman and what she stood for, and how great she was, how courageous. Little bitty thing, shorter than me. So I can no longer use little as an excuse, can I? No, well, we can't use anything as an excuse, but that one's worked for me for a while. Good morning, Kurt. Glad that you are here. Great Sunday morning. Yes, great Sunday morning. It's a beautiful morning here this morning. I was journaling and I found myself saying it was a delicate morning. Um, the sky's blue. The marine layer has stayed out pretty much, and you can see the from up here. There are some fluffy white clouds. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful out there today. And the hummingbirds are humming and tisking as they do. Um, it's a good morning. It's a good morning, and even better now that you're here. Now that you're here. Ah, so RBG. Godspeed, sweetheart. You have earned it. Most of us would have preferred you stay around a little bit longer, but that's not our call, is it? So we're knowing you've always made the right choices, and this would be the right choice now. And just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for all the good you've done. And if you don't agree with me politically, I'm sorry if you don't agree with me politically. Um, but she made a difference. Would that we all could do that. Would that we all did that. Made a difference in the world. Made the world a better place simply because we are in it. Don't you think? Don't you think? Hmm? So there's something to aim for. She's I'd say we have big shoes to fill, but I'm quite sure her feet were very tiny. Um, so we have shoes to fill. We have an icon to emulate. Her courage is legendary. And the difference that she has made in the world is, I trust, long lasting and positive and all for the greater good. So may we all do that. May we all make that kind of a difference in our world. Don't you think? I think we're called to do that. I do. And when someone like that passes, I think it's kind of like a little knock on the cosmic door for the rest of us. For some of us, it's probably a 2x4 up the side of the head or in the rear area, but a challenge. A challenge. Will we just mourn? We're entitled to do that. We've lost a great lady. Or will we do even more? Will we allow her life to inspire ours and and lead us to greater deeds and greater works and carry on the work of making the world a better place? Hmm? We have the opportunity to do that. We do. We have the opportunity. So, what shall we do? What shall we do? I'd like you to think about that while I'm chattering away this morning. What could you do to honor the legacy and the work of this remarkable woman? What could you do? I mean, I put on a collar this morning, but that's no big deal. Um, that just felt right. But what could we collectively, what could you as an individual do? What in her life inspires you to step it up, to do more? Think on these things, if you will. And while you're thinking on these things, I'm going to begin chatting, I think. Um, I frankly have borrowed a story from a promotion that I saw on numerologist.com for an event called Live Equinox, a growth and gratitude event with Kelly Fox and Leanne Kalal. The event takes place next Tuesday online. Um, and you may want to participate in that. I think if you just Google Live Equinox, it'll probably take you right to it. But the story was what really caught my eye. It's a story I had heard many times before, but they told it quite well. So I decided to kind of borrow their telling of it because it was just too good not to share with you. The story begins like this. A beautiful young princess, the daughter of a goddess, is out in the fields lounging around with her friends, and they're chatting and laughing and twirling the stems of meadow flowers between their fingers, and all is well and all is peaceful and beautiful, and it's very springtime. Um, but unknown to the beautiful young princess, she has an admirer. She's caught the eye of a man who likes what he sees. Likes, in fact, so much what he sees that together with his brother he hatches a plan to take what he wants. The two brothers lure the princess away from her friends and tempt her with a flower so stunning, so amazingly beautiful that she can't resist it. And as she reaches out to pluck it from the grassy bank where it is growing, at the moment she least expects it, the brothers' plot begins, and a crack forms in the earth, and the ground starts to crumble beneath her feet. And the crevice quickly turns into a chasm, and down she falls, swallowed into the darkness below. Now, if you're a fan of myths, as I am, you'll recognize the princess as Persephone. And her mother is Demeter, the goddess of grain, plants, and harvest. And her admirer, her kidnapper, is Hades, god of the underworld. So she has fallen now into the underworld where Hades keeps her there for some time, a prisoner in his dark underground home. The eating of a pomegranate ultimately seals her fate. But, while in the beginning she hates him for taking her away from her friends and her mother and the sunlight in the springtime above, she slowly starts to fall in love with him. And then, as the legend goes, a sacred union is formed between them. Meanwhile, back on the Earth's surface, Persephone's mother, Demeter, is furiously, frantically searching for her daughter. And all around her, while she is doing that, the world withers and dies. Demeter is the goddess of farming and harvest, so while her attention is focused on finding her daughter, the crops fail. Food runs out. And the future for humanity is starting to look very bleak. Finally, legend says, Demeter learns the truth about how Hades dragged her daughter into the underworld. And she enters the underworld and pleads with him to release Persephone. And finally, when he won't listen to any of her pleas, she threatens. She threatens to make the earth barren forever and destroy all of humankind if she does not get her daughter back. Even Zeus steps in, gets involved when he realizes that if he allows Demeter to persist, all of humanity would indeed starve. So he sends Hermes, the messenger god, to Hades to demand that Persephone be returned to her mother. And Hades reluctantly agrees on the condition that Persephone spend 9 months of the year above ground and the remaining 3 months with him in the underworld. And so a deal is struck. And with it, the situation is resolved. And the seasons, as we know them, are formed. You see, the rest of this story has become our annual seasonal cycle. In the spring, when Persephone rises above the surface of the earth, she is the goddess of springtime, rebirth, regrowth, newness. Rejoicing, her mother causes the flowers to bloom and the crops to grow. And then, in the fall, when Persephone descends once more into the underground, she embraces her other role and becomes queen of the underworld. And her mother, mourning her loss, causes the plants to wither and return to earth, not to flourish again until the spring. The transformational story of Persephone and the opportunities inherent in the fall equinox become one of the most famous myths of the Greek stories. It is a story of kidnapping and loss, yes, and in that way it bears resemblance to the story of Beauty and the Beast. But it is, more importantly, a story of the spiritual growth and transformation of a naive young woman into someone very different, someone quite extraordinary. Persephone enters the underworld as one person and leaves it as quite another. It's a timeless story, the cycle reoccurring each year on the fall equinox. This year, fall autumnal equinox happens next Tuesday, September 22nd, which is why I wanted to talk to you about it today, so that you can be prepared. Technically, autumnal equinox and spring equinox are the two moments in the year when the sun is exactly above the equator and day and night are of equal length. The autumnal equinox in the northern hemisphere marks the time when sunrise occurs later and the night begins to fall earlier each evening. And of course, plants begin to go dormant or to die for the winter. And animals begin to hibernate, and the life that so fills spring and summer begins to recede. In the southern hemisphere, the exact opposite occurs, and the darkness of winter makes way for the light of spring. Yet this powerful story and the seasonal changes it describes are so intimately woven together that nobody really knows which came first. And I suppose it doesn't really matter. According to the story, time is mythic. Time is cyclical, not linear. And this story didn't just happen once in ages and ages past. It keeps on happening over and over again, year after year, every fall, as Persephone guides us from the light of summer into the longer darkness of fall, and ultimately into winter. Here's the point. The story happens within each of us. We are all in our way Persephone. We're all playing out the role somewhere in our lives. Oh, you're probably not being kidnapped by a lord of the underworld. I wouldn't think. But how often do you find yourself standing on a precipice, facing the darkness of your own personal underworld, wondering whether to leap or back off? And what does your personal underworld have to tell you? It is said by some that it is only when you step into the darkness, when you come to know the shadows within you, that you can fully understand what is holding you back. When Persephone enters into the underworld, she ultimately comes to understand that some part of herself needs to be let go. In the beginning, it's all very much under duress, but she comes to realize that it isn't her destiny to stay in the role of the naive young maiden, to stay frustrated and angry and resentful, just as it isn't our destiny to stay here in the role we find ourselves in at the end of this strange and challenging summer. So as we enter the fall, who shall we be? Who shall we choose to be? Will we continue to try to hold on to the way that it was, the way that we were, the way that the world was? Or shall we come to realize that the world has changed? And that we, in fact, have already changed with it, but there is likely more changing to do. The darkness that Persephone meets when she faces herself in that place of great shadows causes her a good deal of sadness in the beginning. But as she accustoms herself to the darkness, she comes to realize that it holds an important new role for her. It is time for her to relinquish who she has been and become a queen. But the authors point out she can't be that new version of herself. She can't become the queen until she's made the space to let it in. She can't fulfill her new purpose until she has released the past. So, here's a question for you today. Have you accepted this? Will you accept that this is a pivotal moment in your journey into whatever life has in store for you? Are you willing to let it be? Are you willing to accept that the world has changed in a way that we cannot right now undo, nor likely should we, but that we can step up to? We can become greater. This year has been challenging, unnerving for everyone, with a pandemic and floods and unemployment and protests and hurricanes and fires. The pundits say we are witnessing a new normal. And I believe that in response to the new normal, we are all called to be new, called to be more, called to be individually and collectively greater than we have ever been. So, my friends, what's your new role? What's the next step in your story of personal transformation? You can fight it. You can deny it. You can say you don't know. You can mourn it. But ultimately, I don't think you can avoid it. Change is upon us. And we are being called to be up to the change, up to the personal transformation that the change requires. You are being faced with a choice this fall. Today, you are standing at the edge of the darkness. Summer is nearly over. And just beyond that, autumn and winter await. I think what we must come to know is that each season has its gifts. And we must come to realize and accept what is before us. This fall equinox, will you brave the darkness and find for yourself the new kind of light that this season offers? It is different, yes. And so must we be. Standing in that different light, what will you claim for yourself? Will you be victim or victor? Will you be at the effect of the darkness, or will you be a carrier of the light? And remember, whatever you choose to become, whoever you choose to be, you cannot be transformed into that something greater, that new version of yourself, until you have made the space to let it in. So, let me ask you this. What stories, what myths are you holding on to that are holding you back? What old tales are you repeating that no longer serve the magnitude of your spirit? What regrets, resentments, betrayals are you clinging to, and thereby empowering someone else to have control over your life? What darkness do you hold in your mind or your body that you know you must release in order to move on, in order to move up, in order to be more? What pieces of the past must no longer stand in your way as you ascend to your highest calling? So here we stand, my friend, in the last rays of the summer sun, waiting for the autumn to claim us. The authors of the article ask this question: will you take a breath, here and now, on this precipice, between the light and the dark, and choose to release the pieces of your life that are holding you back from a legendary life? What a question. They acknowledge that it is not always easy to know what those pieces are. We've all become so accustomed to our own stories. We have told them so many times that even we assume that they are true. But the real truth is they are myths. They are stories. They are tales that we have made up to protect ourselves, to keep ourselves safe, to keep ourselves abiding in our comfort zones, or to keep us linked to the past. But see, I believe the truth of us is that, like Persephone, we are all gods becoming. Regardless of your past, regardless even of the present, the truth of you is mythic. The truth of you is divine. You are an individualization of the one, a microcosm of the macrocosm. You are the divine expressing in you, through you, as you. And if you are willing, you may choose this time to transform from a naive innocent into a more recognizable version of the divine within you. My book, Becoming God, says that there is a sign over the threshold to paradise that reads, "The whole point of human existence was not to fear God or to worship God, but to become gods." Most of you missed the point. I suppose it sounds a little antagonistic. It was meant to. It was meant to. Do not be one of those who misses the point. Dare we take the leap? Dare we let go of those pieces that are holding us back? Dare we defy, even deny the myths that we have so often based our lives upon? Dare we even attempt to become gods? I mean, surely won't we offend some supreme being? I think not. But how will we know if we never try? This coming Tuesday is the Autumnal Equinox, and I'd like to offer you a challenge. I challenge you to abandon your mere mortality and step across the threshold of creation into a world of your own making and design. I challenge you today, tomorrow, or Tuesday, since time is mythic and the day doesn't matter. I challenge you to take a breath, a deep, healthy, wonderful, free breath. And standing on this amazing precipice between the light and the dark, to choose to release the pieces of your life that are holding you back from leading a legendary life. The choice is yours. Oh, the life is yours. The seasons are changing. Will you change with them? The world is changing. Will you change with it? Will you hide in the shadows, or will you step forward and be the person that you were created to be? I leave you with these words, just slightly, ever so slightly paraphrased from Robert Wood. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. 2 seasons diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. These could be perhaps the final words in a mythic story. May it be yours. May it be yours. What a week this has been. Good going, Jennifer. Because you are all of that, you know. Good enough, smart enough, strong enough. Oh, yeah, you are. So it's new. Anything we haven't done before is new, isn't it? Why not? Oh, I love you guys. I love who you are. I love who you are becoming. It is such a privilege to watch you unfold and become such a privilege. And who knows but that one of you, some of you, all of you may yet make the kind of difference in the world that RBG did. And you know, we never know. We never know. There are so many stories about people who affected one little life and that life then changed the world. So you never know. You never know who you're talking to. You never know who's reading your post on Facebook. You never know who's listening to your podcast. You never know, and you never always know what a difference that might make unless someone circles back around and says, oh, and incidentally, thank you. But we don't do it for the recognition, do we? We do it because we're called to do it. There is a card in the tarot deck called Judgment. And it's not really about judgment, except perhaps our own. Let me see if I can find it. I'd love to show it to you, especially on this deck, which is just stunningly beautiful. Let's see. And yes, I always have a deck right at hand. I usually have several of them, as a matter of fact. But today I have this one, and I'm hoping that my judgment card. This is called the Arcanum deck, and it's just stunningly beautiful. Oh, now we gotta be getting close here. Where are you? Card always shows up for me, and of course it's not going to right now, is it? Ah! I'll see if I had started on that. Let's see if I can get this. There we go. Judgment. In the standard Rider-Waite deck, the angel is clearly Gabriel, who is male, and the horn is blowing, and people are rising up out of their coffins because it's the last judgment. But the meaning of the card, although it can be somewhat scary if you don't understand, the meaning of the card is that we are all being called to step up, to live at a greater level, to respond to the call within us. We are all being called to do that. And that those who answer the call will be blessed beyond measure, will be successful in all ways, and that those who do not will wither. We are all called in some way. Some people hear it when they're a child and spend the rest of their life becoming that. Other people hear it midway through life and make changes. Some don't hear it until after they think they've lived their lives, and then get surprised by something later that says, now go do this now. And it's tempting to say, I'm too old to do that, I'm too tired to do that, I've already done that kind of thing. But we are called, I believe that very strongly we are called to answer the call when it comes. And we're obliged to answer the call. Jennifer says we're made in the image and likeness of God, so we must be expected to be the same. Yeah, to be that. And what is God? I mean, you don't have to create the universe. That's been done. Been there, done that, got the planet. You don't have to do that. You don't have to supply air. That's already been done. You don't have to manufacture bodies. That's already been done. I mean, the hard stuff's already been done. So what then, like God, are we called to do or to be? To love, to create, to be kind, to care. And what else? What else are we called to do or to be? What God-like thing are you called to do in this world? If you are an individualization of the one, and you are, then what is your calling? Thank you, Jefferson. And yeah, it's been a challenging year. And I suspect it ain't over, because It ain't over till it's over. And it clearly isn't quite over yet. Yeah, Jennifer, yes. Judgment, discernment, choosing. Um, choosing not to be detoured by the little chattery voices, um, or the myths of the past, but to say, if I have been called, then it is my responsibility to answer. And I would not have been called if I wasn't up to it. God doesn't call us to do something we're not up to doing. Yeah. Let's just get through. Let's get through. We can. Get through and get on with it. I would not be surprised to wonder if the hardest part might yet be ahead of us. But we have been strengthened by the past. We have. We've been strengthened by our experiences and our willingness to adjust over the past 6 to 9 months. We put on our masks now when we go out. You are putting on your mask now when you go out, aren't you? Yes. I wear masks and gloves, and I don't know which one I dislike the most, but I do it. I do it because it's the right thing to do. So, what else? What else? And more specifically, what are you being called to do? What is that little nagging voice inside of you saying, come on, let's do this. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. You'll know the difference. Listen, go within and listen, and you'll know the difference between the chattering little voices and the monkey voices and committee. You know the committee. If you just be quiet for a moment and listen to them chattering, it's like being at a board meeting where you know every single person's voice. And there's mom and there's dad and there's that third grade school teacher and there's the ex, and they've all got their opinions and they're all in your head. They are all in there. Shush them. You're the chairman of the board. You're the chief operating officer. Shush them. And then listen, because just beyond all that chatter is the voice in your heart, is the voice of God in you. Just beyond all that monkey business, there is the call. What are you called to be or to do right now? It may change. It changes just as you change. As you become more, the call becomes different. It adjusts. It evolves. You are an evolving being. You were intended from the beginning to evolve, and you have evolved from a little tiny helpless baby up into this wonderful person, human being, adult that you are now. Why would we think that only happens on a physical level? On an emotional level, on a spiritual level, on every level imaginable, we are evolving beings. And we are evolving from naive helplessness to being changers of the world. That's good news or bad news, depending on how you look at it, I suppose. So, here's your assignment. Here's your assignment. Listen. Listen carefully today, tomorrow, Tuesday. You can even go a little over that if you want, but Tuesday would be so significant, don't you think, with it being the vernal equinox and all? Don't you think? Hmm? Don't you think? Listen for what it is you are being called to do. It may be a little tiny thing right now. Don't worry about the size of it. It will change when you're ready. Oh, it will change when you're ready. But listen. Jennifer is doing some fabulous work. Just post, for me anyway, just posting how many days left to the election. Reminding me to breathe and to be kind. She's doing a fabulous job. Listen. You'll run across the committee first. They're right there all the time with their opinions, most of which are all outdated and probably weren't right to begin with. Get past them. Shush them. That's a get thee behind me, Satan kind of thing. Just, you guys, shh. And listen for the still small voice that will tell you what it is you are called to do. And it may not in the moment, but trust me, look around right after that because it will show up. Always does. It's an interesting season. It's an interesting week. We have lost an icon, and we are called to become one. Nature abhors a vacuum, likes to fill spaces. How about with you? So let's take a moment and pray, because it's a really good thing to do together. And where two or more are gathered, what I really know is that prayer is enlarged, enhanced, empowered. So let us take a moment. And close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. If it's not, just soft focus. So you're not staring at me or at the computer or at anything, but rather turning your attention within. Oh, it's such a good place to be. And I don't know about you, but I know for me right now, things are stirred up inside. And that's good. So let us simply know together that the action all around about us and the action deeply within us is all simply the action of God. It is God's life stirring stuff up. And as we approach these last couple of days of summer and prepare ourselves to slip into fall, that we simply acknowledge that the time behind us has been challenging, has been different, and that we have survived it. And we continue forward from this place, taking with us the very best of the past and leaving behind the pieces that no longer fit. Leaving behind the old stories that deny the magnitude of our spirit. Leaving behind anything that is holding us back from living a legendary life. And having made room for it now, we accept the magnitude of our spirit. We accept the unlimited creativity within us. We accept the call to be greater, to be more, to be life-enhancing, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. To be kinder, to be gentler, to be stronger, to be more actively involved in our own life, which is in fact the life that surrounds us. God's life, all life. Today, we accept the ability to hear beyond the voices that chatter in our heads, and we know now how to quiet them. And doing so, we make room for the still small voice, the voice that emanates from our very soul that calls us now to something greater. However large or small that call seems in the moment, we know that it is moving us forward, and so it is moving the world forward. And we are grateful. And nothing but good comes from this, nothing but good. We are blessed, and we are blessing. We are more than we have been, and not yet what we are meant to be. But we are moving now in that direction. And we know that we move in and with and for the divine. For it can be no other way. Gratefully, humbly, we allow that to be so. And so it is. Well, my precious friends, another hour has passed by. How quickly it goes. How quickly it goes. This wonderful time we have together. Honoring the notorious RBG, the great, grand, and glorious RBG. And honoring and celebrating the great, grand, and glorious you. You, who will make my world a better place simply by being in it. Who will make a difference, more than you already have. Bless you all for being here. I am so grateful for your company, and so appreciative that you have chosen to spend an hour of your fabulous life with all of us. I'll be back here Wednesday night at 7, and again next Sunday at noon, because, well, it's what I'm called to do right now. Bless you. Go make the world a better, better place. I know you will. Jennifer, keep those timelines coming. They are making a difference. All of you, tell those committees to shh. You've heard their input too many times, probably. Let it go. Listen to God. God bless you. Have a fabulous week. See you on Wednesday.